Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 81 of How Do You Write? I am Rachael Herron, and I am so glad that you're here with me today. Today, I am talking to Morgan Daimler. Hi, Morgan.
Hi, I'm super excited to be here today.
I am so thrilled that you're here, and I'm loving, if you're on the video with us, I can see all these awesome, interesting things behind you, but I'll ask you about your setup in a moment, but let me give you a quick little introduction. Morgan Daimler is the author of more than 24 nonfiction and fiction books, focusing on Irish mythology and paganism, and she's been published in a variety of different magazines and journals and also blogs regularly. She writes for the UK-based Moon Books, an imprint of John Hunt Publishing, where she is the author of the best-selling Pagan Portals the Morrigan. She has also self-published an urban fantasy paranormal romance series called Between the Worlds, which incorporates aspects of Celtic mythology alongside more familiar modern fantasy themes. And when she isn't writing, she's busy raising 3 children in southern New England, translating Old Irish for fun, and occasionally teaching workshops on the things she writes about. Welcome again.
Hi, nice to be here.
So, translating Old Irish, tell me, how did you get into that? That is definitely nothing I've ever said on this podcast.
Yeah, if you're gonna have a boring hobby, you might as well get like an obscure, weird, boring hobby, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a wool spinner, so I feel that.
That is so cool. I actually have a couple other friends who do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the patience for it.
Oh, I don't either. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did Old Irish arrive at you?
That's a good question. Basically, I've been very interested in Irish mythology for a long time, and I had started looking at getting into the original mythology as opposed to like books that were sort of retelling or presenting like modern versions of the mythology.
Mm-hmm.
So I had started looking at translations of the source texts, the
Mm-hmm.
original. And I started to notice if you get 2 or 3 translations of the same story, sometimes they're really different. And then I would notice I would get versions where you'd have like the original language over here, and then you'd have the translation here, and they would literally have like 2 sentences of Old Irish or Old Middle Irish,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd have like a paragraph of English. I was getting really suspicious.
That is suspicious.
It is. Um, and so come to find out, a lot of times, because most of these translations were done 100 or more years ago, a lot of times the translator, because things were very fast and loose back then,
Right.
would put a lot of their own opinions in the translation.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's annotation, not so much translation.
It is. And especially because a lot of it was done during the Victorian period. If something was a little too risque for them or involved bodily fluids or anything that they thought was like not appropriate for their audience, they just wouldn't do it. So I found that out. I was really angry. It's a
Yeah.
terrible motivation to learn a language.
Oh, I think it's a great one.
So I took my anger and I channeled it into finding all the resources I could find on learning Old Irish, which there actually is quite a bit out there. Relatively speaking, for like books and study material. And I just figured I'll just do it myself.
Wow. That is
That's kind of where we're at.
super, super interesting and admirable. How close is Old Irish to I guess as contemporary as it gets Gaelic? Is it related at all?
Modern Irish is what they would call it. Yeah.
Okay.
In Ireland, they just call the language Irish,
Mm-hmm.
and Gaelic would be Scottish.
Oh,
Scottish Gaelic.
okay.
It's a really common confusion, though.
Yeah.
So it's about the same difference as we have with English and Old English.
Okay. So almost understandable, but not quite.
Exactly. So some of the words you can look at and be like, okay, I think I kind of have an idea because it looks very similar to the modern word.
Yeah.
And other words, you're like, this is completely different. And Old Irish is a non-standard orthography, which much like Old English, it means you just kind of spelled it however thought it might look good.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like texting today.
Yeah, exactly. Vowels, an A or an O or a U, it's all good. Close enough.
That is completely fascinating. I love that. And it sounds like it really, really ties into what you write. And it's a natural outcropping of what you do. So let's talk about your writing process. I would love to know when you write, where you write. Do you write in that really interesting space that you're in right now? And if so, tell us about it.
This is my office.
Mm-hmm.
I love my office. I've had this space for a little over a year now.
Uh-huh.
It's my little. It's very small. Like this is.
I'm looking at it.
Seeing now, yeah. But it's at least like a little space that's just for me for writing, which is nice to have. Mm-hmm. A lot of my writing is very research heavy, not the urban fantasy, clearly. But a lot of the nonfiction is very research heavy. So I actually have, you can't see it from here, but I actually have a whole bookshelf over on my right, floor to ceiling, that's all reference books. I have books behind me, so books everywhere. And I like to decorate it because you have to keep it interesting.
You have to have somewhere for your eye to fall, I think. Yeah, someday I'm going to show what's around me, but usually you can just see the boring stuff that's behind me. So when do you get your writing done? How is your process?
That is probably the question that I get asked the most often. Mm-hmm. When do I write? I write all the time. Anytime I have 5 minutes, I write.
Wow.
I have 3 children between the ages of 5 and 14.
Oh my gosh.
And my 5-year-old doesn't believe in sleep.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, so am I. I don't think I've gotten a full night's sleep now in 5 years. So he normally wakes me up between 5 and 6 in the morning. Uh-huh. And when I get up with him, while he's doing his sort of morning stuff, which for a 5-year-old you can imagine is super exciting.
It is to him, right?
It is. But I'll sit down and I'll start writing, and even if it's just like 200 or 300 words, here and there, any opportunity I have, I'll get something done. I usually have 2 to 5 projects going at a time. So there's always something that I can, that's always something. And then my children are all in school at this point. My youngest is in preschool. So I have 3 hours during the day, where I'm home and it's quiet. Mm-hmm. As you can hear the sound of silence. It's a very rare sound. And I use that 3 hours to sit and to do the kind of stuff I have to really try to focus on that I can't do when there's like WWE going on in my living room. So
I can't imagine even cooking while WWE was going on. I think I'd be so distracted.
I'm good at multitasking. It's an art form.
So that's where you get your deep work done. That is awesome. Do you have word goals, or is it just all time based on what you can get done?
It's a little bit of both. I generally try to get at least 1,000 words a day. Mm-hmm. But some of it does depend a bit on what my deadlines are for any particular thing. Mm-hmm. I blog twice a week, so and that's usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I need to make sure those get done and written in time to be, to get posted and go live. I have several different books in different levels of progress, and those generally have deadlines. So you kind of have to stay on task with that, and word counts can help. And then I also will do like magazine pieces and anthology pieces. And, again, those usually you'll have a specific word count, whether it's 1,000 words or 2,500 words, usually something in that range. And I do admit that sometimes I am like that college student, like the night before it's due, like frantically.
Oh, I have I have a 1,000-word article due this afternoon, which I haven't started yet. So
I feel you.
There's something about that. I had a professor in college once say that, you must do all your papers ahead of time. And she waxed rhapsodic about that. And she said, and I was like, oh God, I'm never, ever going to do well in this class. And she said, unless you're the type of person who does it the night before and you're getting A's, the and has to be there, then that's your process and you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. So yeah.
I think the two best skills I learned in college was how to reference things and do citations and like research really well.
Mm-hmm.
Also how to like get quality work done in like 5 minutes.
Well, you're definitely, it sounds like you really, really are a good multitasker for reals. So what is your biggest challenge when it comes to writing?
My biggest challenge, honestly, is probably that I am prone to taking on too much. I am that person that will already have like 6 or 7 things that I need to do, and someone will ask me to do another thing, and I'll be like, sure, like I can do that. I'll just invent a 25th hour for the day.
But it always makes sense when we say yes, right? I always think I can do it. So then how do you handle that when you are overtaxed?
I have no idea. Somehow I find that 25th hour. And it somehow it always manages to work out, but that definitely is my Achilles heel is overscheduling myself. And I have no concept of relaxation. Actually, I write my fiction for fun. That is what I do for fun. So
that's an excellent way to get the work done, because I don't. And it always feels like such a slog, especially those first drafts. So what is your biggest joy in writing?
My biggest joy is probably 2 separate things. I actually really love holding that hard copy in my hands for the first time. Mm-hmm. Like when you open the box, it's like Christmas Day, and you get to pull out that hard copy for the first time. And that's just such a great feeling, like seeing your hard work in physical form. Yeah. That's just wonderful. And the second thing is probably when people say to me, in person or online, how much the book means to them, like how important it was to them to read it, or how much they loved it, because that makes it feel like it's worthwhile.
Do you remember the first time that ever happened to you? Or a specific instance when that did?
Not specifically at this point. I know when Pagan Portals the Morrigan came out, that was probably the first book that I wrote where I really remember someone saying that was sort of a life-changing book for them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and that's just a profound thing to hear from someone, because you always worry when you write anything that it's, nobody's going to care.
Right. It's like throwing a rock in the street. Nobody's going to notice. Yeah. That is really, really
exactly
awesome. So can you share a quick craft tip of any sort with us?
Sure. This is not like original to me. So,
that's okay. Totally.
Just clear. It's not my system. But this is something that was told to me that I've really found to be probably the most useful thing. When I got into writing fiction, it was for National Novel Writing Month. Yay! Which I love and encourage everyone to do. Yeah, it's so much fun. But I hadn't written fiction in like 20 years at that point. I was just doing nonfiction, and a friend of mine had suggested you should do Nano because it's fun. And I was a little unsure. And she said to me, give it a try and write what you know, but write what you would want to read. Mm. And I took those 2 things really to heart. And I also do that with my nonfiction, which I hadn't even realized until she said that. And then I was like, that is probably the most useful advice for any writer to hear. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we do it without even realize we're doing it. You write what what you would want to read, and then you're going to enjoy the writing process a lot more, and you're going to be a lot more invested in making it something interesting that other people are also going to want to read.
So do you do that now with all your books consciously?
Yeah. I try to look at it like anything I'm writing, articles or books, or even the blogs. I try to think of like, why would I be wanting to read this?
That's such simple advice, and it's so easy to completely forget it, because I'm always thinking when I go into a new project or article or book, I'm thinking, how should this be written? I forget to think, how would I want to read this? So I really like that you're reminding me of that. That's awesome. Thank you. So
like I said, it's not like I didn't invent it,
but it's so good to hear again. It's so good.
Yeah.
Because I just opened a book earlier today. I realized I had finished the last novel I read a couple days ago, and I hadn't picked one up since. And I picked one up and I opened the first page and I fell into it, and I thought, oh, this is what I want to read. And the feeling that I'm having right now looking at these words, this is what I want to give somebody else. Not I should turn the page, but I can't help turning the page. Yeah.
Yeah. So it draws you in.
So cool. So when you have those dark days, the self-doubt days, how do you handle those?
That's a tough one. I think when I get in that very self-critical place, I try to remind myself that, everything I'm doing, I'm just trying to do my best with it. My approach in general to writing is that I always try to do the best I can do in that moment with it. And if I feel like I really am not in a place to be focusing on that at that moment, I'll work on something else until I'm in a better headspace, to go back to that particular project. So, I look at it like, because of course you always get critical reviews. There's always someone who has something unpleasant to say about anything anybody does. Mm-hmm. And it is easy to internalize that too much. Mm-hmm. But I just try to remind myself that, I did the best I could do, and, you can't make all the people happy. So,
boy, I would like to, but we can't. But yeah. I always think I would. Yeah. I would like to. We would all like to. I think writers as a lot, we tend to be people pleasers in many ways, because we're writing. We're trying to put our words out to please people, so that when we don't, it's rough. Yeah,
I think we all have that dream of writing that book that gets nothing but 5-star reviews.
yes.
Everyone adores.
And then we remember that it does not happen. Even with the books we love the most, that we think are 100% perfect, every once in a while I'll pull it up on Amazon on my phone and just scroll right to the 1-star reviews and make myself feel good. It's like, these people hate this perfect book, and that makes me feel good. Better, at least. Yeah. Well, and I try not to ever take it too personally. Yeah. A lot of times when we look at the negative reviews, you can sort of see that it's not even that they don't like what you wrote. It's that they were either looking for something different. Yeah.
Your book was never going to be what they wanted. Mm-hmm. Or, they personally have certain things that they dislike, and it just wasn't a good fit.
That's a really great way to say it. Speaking of books that we like, what is the best book you've read recently?
That's a tough one, because there's a lot of good books out there. And I try to kind of divide my time up between, I read a lot of fiction, mm-hmm. Particularly urban fantasy, mm-hmm. Not just because that's what I write, but that's also sort of the genre that I love. Mm-hmm. And I do read a lot of nonfiction, which I enjoy. I did just read a book called A Crack in Everything, I think is the title, by Ruth Long.
What a great title.
And it's set in Ireland. The author is Irish, and the premise is sort of about the other world, the world of fairies, overlapping the mortal world. But it's a very sort of gritty suburban sort of story. Yeah. And I liked it. I liked her take on the way she did it. It's very different from what you see with a lot of urban fantasy, and the way they weave those concepts together. I thought it was very original, which is always a good thing.
I'm going to put that on my TBR pile because the grittier the better in urban fantasy for me. I want real, true, deep, dark grit. So fantastic. Well, where can we find you online and your books? Tell us about that.
I'm everywhere. No, that's not true.
Good answer.
I wish I was there. I am on Twitter. I am on Facebook. I'm always under my name, Morgan Daimler.
I'm sorry that I mispronounced it.
That's okay. Everyone mispronounces it. It's a good German name, so
Daimler.
It doesn't sound like it's spelled. Yeah, Daimler. I figured early on that I would just put everything under my real name. I write under my real name.
So
you would think it was smart. No one else does it, so then I get nervous. I'm like, why isn't anyone else doing this?
Oh, I wish I was Yarn-A-Go-Go everywhere for so long. Like, I'm still Yarn-A-Go-Go on Skype because you can't change that. And I just wish I had started out being Rachael Herron everywhere.
The very first thing I ever published was a poem in an anthology back in, I want to say like 2001, 2002. Mm-hmm. And I did it under a pen name. Mm. And I deeply regret it now because I don't even know why I used a pen name. I think because I was under this impression that that's what professional authors did at the time. And then I realized, first of all, it's very hard to get people to understand that, no, that's me.
Right.
I wrote that. So it's hard to sort of build up any following or any name, branding, whatever the fancy marketing term is for that. And, trying to like submit other things when you have your real name and then you have your pen name. I don't know how authors do that, to be honest, because it was very confusing. I was also like probably 22 at the time. So it might just have been confusion on my end.
No, I find it confusing too. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the point where I was like, never again. I'm just going to do everything under my real name and just simplify my life. But yeah, so I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter.
What is your blog called so that we can go look at that too?
Living Liminally.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I write a lot about Irish mythology, fairies, things along those lines, Irish paganism. So it seems like a good, appropriate name for it. If you search Morgan Daimler, Living Liminally, my blog will pop up.
Perfect.
I do also have a Yola website.
What is that?
Also under Morgan Daimler.
What's a Yola website?
It's a free website for authors who are too cheap to pay a lot of money to have a not free website.
Hell yeah.
I fully encourage free. Free is good. Yeah, it's just one of those free build your own websites.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But you have to put in Yola, Yola.
Oh, okay.
Morgan. Otherwise, you'll just get a whole list of search results. And my books you can get on Amazon. That's pretty straightforward.
Well, thank you so very much for spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. It's been a delight to talk to you.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
I could talk about.
And I hear all this, but I feel a little guilty because I hear all this quiet air around you. I feel like you should go now into the deep work. So enjoy the quiet while it lasts.
I have an hour before I have to pick my son, so
okay.
I'm sure I can get something done in the next hour.
Thanks, Morgan. Take care. Okay. Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you for having the show.
Of course. Bye.